Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Hi everyone. So today my friend Qotrunnada Shafiyya and me, Syakira binti Ibrahim, will present about Islamic ethics, views of Muslim scholars, Kindi, freedom, immorality. Okay, so first thing first, let us know the biography of Kindi. So his full name is Abu Yusuf Yaqub ibn Ishaq as-Sabbah Kindi. So I stated also the Jawi punya tulisan. He was born in the year of 801 in Kufa and died in the year 873 in Baghdad. So these two places now are stated in Iraq. Okay, he was born in the era Islamic Golden Age, which is a period of cultural and economic in the history of Islam. So this period was from the 8th century to 14th century. Kindi started his education in Kufa and then he moved to Baghdad to further and complete his studies. He was a son of a local governor in Kufa and he was also the member of Kinda tribe and aristocracy. Okay, he was majored in philosophy, polymath, mathematics, physics and music. So he was well known as the father of Arab philosophy. He lived in Kufa and also lived in Basra and eventually lived at Baghdad. So he left the world at the age of 72 with a legacy of work and contributions. So next we move to Kindi's contributions. The first one is Kindi was once served as a tutor to the son of the caliph of that period named Al-Mu'tasim, and he also wrote more than 30 treatises in the discipline of medicine. And then the third one, he developed a mathematical scale to quantify the strength of the drugs, especially the compound drug, because this is an extremely important, especially considering how particular, responsive and sensitive the body to foreign substances such as drugs. Next, Kindi also played an important role in introducing the Indian numerals to the Islamic world, this one in the field of mathematics. Next, he also published the translations made by others and wrote commentaries on many Greek words. And last but not least, he also created a system based on the phases of the moon to quantify the strength of a system. Okay, the system allow doctors to determine in advance the most critical days of a patient's illness. Kindi actually wrote various books, but these are some books that was written by Kindi. So in the field of astronomy, for example, the book of the Judgment of the Stars, including the 40 chapters on questions and elections, and also on the stellar race. In the field of cryptography, for example, on deciphering cryptographic messages, on extracting obscure correspondence. And in the field of chemistry, he wrote the book of the chemistry of perfume and distillations. Next is ethical view. Kindi stated that knowledge is not only to discriminate between good and evil, but also to preserve the purity of the soul, which is able to attain real happiness to human being. And then, the true values of a person lies in the soul of a human being, not the body. So, human beings need to concentrate more on the development of the mind and soul rather than life of body, because as we know, the mind and the soul that will tentukan or determine the action of human being. Next is evil is not appropriate to man's nature, because evil results from the triumph of passion over reason. Next is Kindi also defined virtue as a praiseworthy human disposition. And last but not least is the way to get happiness is to know God and perform those we know brings us near to Him.
Thank you, Syakira, for the explanation. Now we will move on to elaborate more on Kindi's ethical views. To start off, Kindi was strongly influenced by the Stoic tradition, particularly the thought of Epictetus. Okay, but what is a Stoic tradition? A Stoic tradition is a belief. So they define the goal in life as living in agreement with nature. Humans, unlike all other animals, are constituted by nature to develop reason as adults, which transforms their understandings of themselves and their own true good. The Stoics held that virtue is the only real good, and so is both necessary and contrary to Aristotle, sufficient for happiness. It in no way depends on luck. The virtuous life is free of all passion, which are intrinsically disturbing and harmful to the soul. But it includes appropriate emotive responses, conditioned by rational understandings, and the fulfillment of all one's personal, social, professional, and civic responsibilities. The Stoics believe that the person who has achieved perfect consistency in the operation of his rational faculties, or the wise man, is extremely rare, yet serves as a perspective ideal for everyone. The Stoics believe that progress towards this noble goal is both possible and vitally urgent. Particularly the thought of Epictetus. Epictetus emphasized the importance of freedom from the world and human beings' status as agents, who, though their ultimate independence, were responsible for their own happiness and independent of others. So Epictetus was a slave back in the 1st century, and he knew from a young age that the way to be truly free or have true freedom was not being released from his physical shackles, but in using what was in his control to the best of his ability. With the permission from his master, he was educated in philosophy, and after being free, he devoted his life to teaching others to what he had learned. Among his teachings were the notion that we should only focus on what we can control and set the standard for others through our conduct. And then third, we have Stoic ideas about the ephemeral nature of earthly goods are recalled, and Kindi warns against the attachment to favorite worldly goods. The core of Kindi's ethical views is how to avoid grief. So, to him, sadness is the predictable result of forming an attachment to things that can be taken away from you. To push the point, Kindi tells the story of King Nero, who was so fond of fabulous pavilions that he had brought it to him to enjoy on an island excursion. So he went on a boat to go to that island, and unfortunately for him, the boat carrying the pavilion sank on the way. And Kindi draws the following moral of the story. If you want to have few misfortunes, you should have few possessions outside of you. So his key insight is that the grief you will feel in life is directly proportional to the attachment you form to the things that you can lose. According to Kindi himself, there is a whole realm of objects that provides us great pleasure and are invulnerable to loss. These objects reside in the realm of the intellect. His point is that the person who is immune to sadness is the philosopher, whose aim in life is to not own pavilions or flat-screen television, but it is to grasp intelligible truth.
Fourth, we have, if worldly property becomes a concern and is then lost or damaged, this will upset an individual's mental equilibrium. This point correlates with the third point I just explained a while ago, as Kindi believes that human beings are what they truly are in the soul and not in the body. So the form of attachment that he mentioned before is not merely physical, but also attachments that are glued to the soul. With this point, Kindi advocates that not building an attachment to any worldly goods is equal to maintaining an internal balance through the mechanism of an individual's interior autonomy or freedom.
Okay, so the last one is the principal cause of sorrows is the loss of external and failure to attain what we highly cherish. For example, we are scared of death because we will fail to attain life because we highly cherish our life.
And so the lesson to draw may not be that we should avoid forming attachment entirely, but that we should do so sparingly and only for good reason. In conclusion, Kindi's work emphasizes the division of the soul from the body, and that he sees our true self or essence as the only part of us which survives the death of the body. As by nature, worldly goods are vulnerable and transitory. Therefore, we need to attach ourselves to things that are more enduring and stable, or in other words, things that cannot be taken from us. Knowing this, we have a more practical remedy to look upon, and it is easier for us to accept and live in accordance with this conclusion as we have freedom of our soul. And knowing that we have less attachment or more freedom from these worldly goods, it allows us to show more gratitude and happiness to the things that we encounter every day. That would be all for this topic. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.